first to review of Battlefield 2042.
Let's begin, please.
The new Battlefield is one of the free March monthly PlayStation games. It'll be available for such another week into April. I played it for a little over 3 hours, giving it a little bit more time than my mandatory 2, because I wanted to ensure that it wouldn't improve past my initial impressions, which were not great. I think the main thing that needs to be relayed about this game is that bigger doesn't mean better. It's a multiplayer shooter that decided to go with an enormous scale with its maps, but the giant scaling both horizontally and vertically and these intense weather events are novel and cool to see initially, but they really detract from the actual combat and flow of gameplay. Because there's a lot of scale, not a lot of detail. You can see giant stretches of the map where there's little to no cover, making it so that's an area of the map where you're going to be ultimately vulnerable and never really want to be. And almost everything feels like it's just big just to be big. And I talked about how to balance high ground in a recent video, and this game does it so terribly. There are the most giant elevation changes I've maybe ever seen in a game, and nothing that players can do to switch up those advantages, to get the people out of the position. There's no movement abilities, there's no way to counter their high ground position. It's just terrible. Another problem with the maps was there were extreme fluctuations in brightness and visibility. This desert map is a great example. I mean, it's bright on the outside, and then every single interior building has no lighting to it, so everything is super dark. And so when your brightness feels normal, anytime that you're fighting inside, it's gonna feel atrocious. And all these buildings have almost no detail, feel extremely bland, and there's nothing good about fighting in them either. And the feeling of having poor visibility and not being able to distinguish what's going on is kind of irregular in this game. I mentioned the epic weather events like the storms, tornadoes. They just make it so it's harder to interpret what's going on in game. And for a shooter where you want to value your life at least a little bit, God, it just sucks to experience that. Another thing that becomes extremely hard to interpret and doesn't provide information to a player like it does in other shooters is sound. Hearing unlimited fucking shots right now. I couldn't even tell that was a person, to be honest. It's gonna sound like a chaotic battlefield, like at all times, where you can't distinguish where things are coming from, where people are, which sure, can be an interesting simplex, an interesting approximation of what warfare can be like, but as a game where you want to use in-game elements to guide how you play, it really fails in that right. And this is something that thematically Battlefield kind of does, where a lot of games will take war themes and elements and try to gamify them to make them fit for a game. Battlefield will take more of a realism approach. And it's okay to go for this niche of trying to capture more realistic warfare, but the problem is that real war is the worst thing in life, basically. Oscillating between intervals of tedious tasks, anxiety-filled uneventfulness, and disposable death. The farther you go into reflecting that genuinely, you're not really getting to a fun game. We like to play war, we don't want the real thing. Not that that statement is absolute about Battlefield, it's just kind of where it leans. But the structure of having a much larger amount of players in the match, you're an army with an objective. There's different tech and vehicles that have giant fluctuations of advantage where you're just kind of incapable of matching that amount of power with your own life. It takes a lot of the individual power away from the player, which is okay and it's a direction to go, but not one that I really enjoy personally. And vehicles are actually a great way to demonstrate this point. Like, I hate them in video games. I can't hop into like a strong tank and just fight all these infantry and feel good about the kills I'm getting, because it's just so easy and you have such a severe advantage over the people that you're killing. It's just like, what's even impressive about that? So it would never be too engaging for me. And so when you just want an even competitive battle against someone and you're getting blown up from vehicles that you can't do anything to, God, it becomes so frustrating. And a lot of these things are just kind of structural things that are going to be in just about every Battlefield game, and it's why it's never been my preferred option, but I don't think it was done very well in this game either. Because I played the last one, Battlefield 1, a decent amount, and found some things that I liked about that one. Some of it was gun feel, which is actually something that I thought was pretty good in 2042, although not perfect. I felt felt like they had a pretty good balance of not making things too easy, with some weapons having pretty significant recoil, some having less. Good variability on that, not too heavy on aim assistance. And overall, I thought the weapons were satisfying to use and fire, although I think that the notifiers for UI and sound are pretty terrible for kills, assists, and stuff like that, because nothing's informative in this game. But overall, the weapon mechanics felt pretty good. I also enjoyed that you can sprint while reloading, and also had a little bit more stability with movement abilities while still being able to aim down sight. I will say that sniping felt terrible in my initial playing, however. The first one was a bolt action that would only get one-hit kills if you hit headshots, which can totally be something that works in a game, but doesn't work great for this game because the time to kill is really fast, and the handling and aim down sight speed of that sniper rifle was brutal. So I'm not certain if that's a problem across the board with sniping, but that first installation is a really bad balance and not try-trying whatsoever. Also gotta mention that settings are certainly something that you're gonna want to play around with in this game. Most of the defaults feel a little bit funky with sensitivity, and in almost every game that I play, I max out the FOV. It's kind of something you wanna do generally for competitive advantage, but it actually might not be good to do in this game. I was kind of confused as to whether that would be the best option or not, just because it can be really difficult to pick people out a lot of times, and the visibility is so bad. A couple little things that really pissed me off too, trying to scroll to change the settings would like scale really rapidly, which would make it so I could never get to my perfect numbers, which destroys my OCD mind. Also, having to hold the options menu, the tiniest button on PlayStation, to keep the scoreboard open, absolutely tilted me. I kind of feel like this game duty.
Who put you on the planet?
To me, this game seemed like duty. The little things matter, and I will rant about them till the end of my days. Overall, Battlefield's got some pretty good gunplay mechanics that feel solid, but it is significantly held back by brutal map design, constantly casting you into chaos, so there's little you can do as an individual, leading to many helpless moments and deaths where you never see your opponents. The Battlefield games are never really my go-to, but I feel like 2042 is a step back with how bad these maps are in the direction they tried to go with those environments. Actually, I had some fun with Battlefield 1. Don't think I'll be returning to this one. That's it for my first two review. Peace out. You legitimately can move the camera freely on the... Oh, shit! With the vehicle, which is very different. Ah! Fucking Jesus! Get away from the...